Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night to you, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Mechanically Declined. And, as you can probably tell, this is not a car. Well, now that we've made it abundantly clear that this is, in fact, not an automobile, we must then find out, why is this here? And what is it for? Well, it goes back to a week and a half ago. You see, I was at somewhat of a flea market on a Sunday. And usually there are all sorts of tools that I like to pick up, restore, and, antiques that I wish to preserve and things like that. And sitting at a table with maybe 5 other items on it in this hustle and bustle was this flash 620. And before you ask, no, it's not an incredibly rare camera at all. It uses a discontinued film type, which makes it worthless to many collectors. And no, it's definitely not in the best of shape, so it's certainly not a showpiece. But what it is a dead simple camera that today we will be modifying to take the still produced 120 film. Or we'll at least die trying. For this very simple lens cleaning and basic restoration, if you want to call it that, you will need acetone. The stronger the better. More than a few Q-tips, and some extremely dilute soapy water. First, we will pour a conservative amount of acetone into a convenient holding container. Then we shall wet a singular Q-tip, ridding ourselves of the excess before testing in an inconsequential spot on the device's paint to make sure there is no adverse reaction. We'll wait a few seconds just to make sure. And it seems there has been absolutely no adverse effect on the finish of this camera. So we're going to take our Q-tips and swab along the entire surface with extra focus to the corners to get rid of all that dust that could create occlusions in our final product. Alright, and the paint has responded extremely well, as has the dust and grime, which has come off very easily with the acetone. Here is the before. And here's the after. Now, it's not perfectly clean, but it'll be more than suitable for a few test rolls of film. Next, we will do the same process to these interior parts. And when it just about looks like you've used a black Sharpie on your Q-tips, you know that the components are truly clean and free of visual occlusions. A side note to stay away from these paper labels and this leatherette sort of covering, as both will be damaged by the acetone. And as a last recommendation, before we take apart our lens assembly, it is a good idea to clean the outside first. As you can see, it's covered in more dust than the inside was, naturally, and we wouldn't want that getting in to the mechanism that we just cleaned out. So, for the outside, we will switch from the acetone to our very lightly soapy water, and get to work. With the base done, and with the top unfinished, the film holder, I should say, unfinished, it becomes very easy to see what that lightly soapy water has done. It's cleared everything up, kept the dust away, and especially at the edges of the leatherette finish, you can really tell that it is in much better shape, just with 2 minutes of effort. Make sure to really work the cotton into the edges, and don't worry, the adhesive is actually incredibly resilient, so just a light bit of moisture won't hurt. Alright, now that all the surfaces are relatively clean, we can begin to disassemble the lens assembly. So, a guide online said to pry off the metal on the outside, but another guide, recently published on an internet blog, noted there is a very hard to see notch right there. And when a extremely small screwdriver is placed into that notch and pried upwards very carefully, the main focusing lens will pop free. Success! And I didn't even have to butcher the finish. Now let's see what's under there. Finger under. Gently set the lens assembly to the side. And yep, there's quite a bit of dust, but now we have access to the extremely dusty close focus lens, which on a 6-20, or specifically this flash 6-20, can slide right out of the way. A very interesting feature that's unique to very few of these Brownie models. Now, second verse, same as the first. We will carefully take some acetone, remove the excess, and begin to clean around the lens ring and our newly exposed lenses. As another small tip, remember to make sure to get inside of this lens ring here, as anywhere that harbors dirt, and this lens ring has harbored a lot of dirt, that can get right back onto the lens after you reassemble. And once you've pried this off once, you're not going to want to do it again. And just like that, our first lens is clear. On to the next. Well, it's easy to see that's one side of our, well, for lack of a better term, zoom lens taken care of. But what about the other side? It's hidden behind the mechanism and a plate of steel. Well, lucky for us, Kodak thought of that. And by gently holding here and pulling upwards, it's a bit of a finicky process, but we can remove that plate. Here it is halfway, revealing quite a bit of dirt inside. With a little bit more coaxing, very carefully. This part is liberated, and ready for some more cleaning. Alright, here is our before cleaning. Now with most of the grime gone, though it's hard to tell the difference in the darkness of that box, our matchstick comes into play. Normally, when the case is closed, this shutter button at the top reaches down into this tunnel and actuates the manual shutter. Well, without the cover on, we need a non-damaging substitute. And get ready to see the coolest thing ever, in my opinion. Did you catch it? That was a 1/40th of a second, give or take, exposure. And to clean the other side of our zoom lens here, we will set our camera to long exposure, such that when we hold down the shutter button, the gate will remain open. And that light you're seeing is coming right through our zoom lens. Let's give that a clean, give this back plate a little once over, and then we will be ready to reassemble and modify our film. 2 Q-tips later, we have a clean enough zoom lens. It's really finicky getting it through the shutter, but it's more than clean enough now to take some relatively crisp pictures. This is a camera from the 40s, so any little occlusions that are left will, function only to add character to the shots. Now we'll just give a little once over to that plate. See all the gunk coming off? And we're ready for final assembly. First, let's reinstall this backing plate. Good. All right. And we'll just turn the camera around and carefully reinstall our cleaned main lens, doing our absolute best not to get any dust, dirt, or fingerprints, God forbid, on the back. And with it carefully in place, it should pop in with a snap. Just like that. Now all we need to do, drop in our film carrier, make sure it lines up with the internal rails in the camera, seat it up, and last but certainly not least, actuate the lock to make sure that it doesn't drop and fall apart and ruin all of this hard work you've done. And there you have it. One refurbished Brownie Flash 620, ready for action once again. If you liked this bit, then stick around for part 2, where we're going to be taking this 120 film and making it fit in this 620 camera. Thanks for watching.